Hello, ladies and gentlemen. One more important video on goods and service tax. If you're working as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, then you should know about those changes that are being applicable with effect from 1st October 2022. As an entrepreneur or as a business owner, you should know. Might be you have an objective to create more and more profit in your business. Might be you have an objective to create more and more organic growth in your business. But at the same time, it is equally important for your business is to know about the GST compliance. Is to know about that whether you are making the fulfillment of the compliances in GST. It is very important. No matter what size of business you have, no matter which business you are deal for. GST is one of the integral part of your business. Like how you are focusing on the pricing, performance and profitability of the business, in a similar way you have to focusing on the goods and service tax and their compliances. Because what happens at the end of the day, if you are not complying with the goods and service tax, no matter what size of business you have developed, no matter how much revenue you have generated, your revenue or business development is going to be compensated with the non-compliance part of the goods and service tax. Understand this. Understand this. Are you working as an entrepreneur? Are you focusing more and more to create more and more profit? Are you focusing on that? In a similar way, you have to focusing on the goods and service tax because it is one of the licenses which are providing you to create more and more business opportunities. So now what are those changes in goods and service tax? Whether you are applying those changes in your business and paying the tax to the government after amending those changes, it is important. It is important. One of the important changes that you should know is about your suppliers. What is your supplier conditions? Whether your suppliers are filing the tax return timely, whether the supplier is paying the tax to the government timely, whether your suppliers are fulfillment of all those requirement of GST so that you as a buyer or recipient can be able to take the input tax credit or benefit. That is very important. Now, goods and service tax. There are some changes with effect from 1st October 2022, where two-way communications between suppliers and buyer is officially omitted. No more relevant of GSTR 1A, 2, 3. It is no longer required. GSTR 1 filed by the supplier, GSTR 2 filed by the buyers or recipient after amending or editing or modifying. Then the GSTR 1A filed by the supplier after accepting or rejecting of all those changes that the buyer has done in GSTR 2, and then GSTR 3. All those, the GSTR 2, 3, 1A is no longer required. It is officially omitted. Now, two-way traffic is no longer relevant. One-way traffic is started. Now it is good. It is good that there is no any confusion. One-way traffic, one-way reconciliations. Your supplier has filed the returns, pay the tax to the government, then you would be able to take the input tax credit. Otherwise, you're not able to take the input tax credit. It is very clear. You know that with effect from 1st January 2022, the GSTR 2B is implemented. And now if you are availing the input tax credit without reconciling with the GSTR 2B, it means you are allowing to the department, GST department, to come and collect the tax with interest and penalty. So now as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, your objective is also to create more and more effective working capital. Your objective is to create more and more cash flow. If you are not able to manage and maintain the input tax credit efficiently, how you would be able to manage the working capital and cash flow? Because it impacts directly to your working capital and cash flow. Understand this. If you have availed the input tax credit without reconciling with the GSTR 2B, what happened at that point of time? Definitely the department would become and ask to you that you have availed the excess input and you have discharged less liability through GSTR 3B. So pay the tax with interest and penalty as may be applicable. So alarm to yourself that before you are going to pay the tax to the government through GSTR 3B, furnishing the returns under GSTR 3B, you have to check whether you have availed the input tax credit and that has been completely reconciled with the GSTR 2B. Now one scenario came here. In GSTR 2B, there are a lot of inputs are available. Would you be able to take all those input? The answer is no. See the provision of section 16 subsection 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to fulfill the conditions of the ITC. You have to fulfill that. And if you see the GSTR 2B, where there are so many information, so many inputs that are not belongs to you, that invoices you have not received or booked. So if you are taking the input basis of that, again the questions here come that you have less payment of the tax to the government, and the department will again come and ask you to pay with the interest and penalty. So now in every stage there is a big dispute. Now it is up to you that how you are finding the dispute and get corrected at that point of time itself. It is up to you only. In GST, there are lot of changes the GST councils are bringing, and that you have to implement in your business, that you have to focus more on your business. So know your supplier is one of the important part, because your input tax credit is dependent on your suppliers. If your suppliers has filed the GSTR 1 but not filed the GSTR 3B, again it is a problem for the supplier, because in the next month the supplier will not able to file the GSTR 1. There is a restrictions, and because your supplier has issued a lot of invoices to you, you have recorded and you are waiting that it will become in GSTR 2B. Understand this. Understand the scenarios. You have to be upfront, discuss with the supplier, find out all those where the suppliers are doing the fault. If suppliers have a continuous fault, immediately stop the business with them. Do some wise calculations in your business. So your finance teams has to be must aware about those changes and start to get implemented those changes in GST. If you have a professional accountant, you have to be rely on the professional accountant, but at the same time you have to make sure that everything is going in the correct manner and you are not getting any input that is not eligible as per the GST provision, and you are discharging those in your outward tax liability. Understand this. This is very important. So now the time has come to know about your supplier. With effect from 1st October 2022, the two-way reconciliation is no more. One-way traffic, one-way reconciliations, where your supplier is complying with all those, the tax compliance, and then you would be able to take the input tax benefit. Section 37 is amended with effect from 1st October 2022, which states that a supplier who has not filed the GSTR 1 of the previous month cannot able to file the GSTR 1 of the current month. So what the supplier has to do, that they have to file all those previous month GSTR 1, so that the supplier can be able to file the GSTR 1 of the current month. And it should be matched with the GSTR 3B. If the GSTR 1 revenue and the GSTR 3B revenue is not matching, then again it is a dispute. Section 39, which states about the GSTR 3B. So in GSTR 3B, it is again amended that the supplier who has not filed the GSTR 1 of the current month cannot be able to file the GSTR 3B of the same month. Now see the changes in GST. You cannot able to file the GSTR 3B until you file the GSTR 1. You cannot be able to file the GSTR 3B until you file the GSTR 1 of the current one. In a similar way, you cannot file the GSTR 1 of the current month until you file the GSTR 1 of the previous month. So now there are a lot of restrictions in GST, and that is for you to do the correct business, honest business, paying the tax to the government timely, correctly, and you would find more and more happiest moment while you are discharging the tax liability by performing more and more business opportunity. It is the important part. So to summarize this, know your suppliers. If your suppliers is not filing the tax timely, returns timely, paying the tax timely, then you would have to inquire with the suppliers what is the problem, why your supplier is not able to file, why you are not able to take the input tax benefit, because all those invoices is already recorded in your system. You simply extract all those informations and just give it to your suppliers and check with your supplier what is the status of these invoices, whether you have shown these invoices in your GSTR1 or not. And if you have not shown these invoices, then please show these invoices in your GSTR1, pay the tax to the government so that we as a buyer or recipient can be able to avail the input tax benefit. You have to become upfront, and then you would be able to manage the GST properly. Otherwise, what happened? You would have the outward tax liability. There is no any input tax because you are not following with the suppliers. You are not focusing on the supplier. You are not managing the suppliers. And at the end of the day, you have more and more liquidity. Your working capital would be getting impacted. So it is up to you only that how you are managing to the suppliers, following with the suppliers. One thing is very clear. Then you have to take the input tax credit with the reconciliations of GSTR 2B. If you are not reconciling the input tax credit with the GSTR 2B or availing the input basis of what you have recorded in your books of account, whatever the invoices that you have received from the supplier, and those invoices that you have received from the supplier is adjusting with your outward tax liability while you are discharging the tax liability under GSTR 3B, it is going to create a bigger problem for you. It is going to create a bigger problem. So in every stage you have a more wise decisions basis of what the information is available with you. Start to connect with your suppliers because it is the extended part of your teams. It is the extensions of your teams because you, your teams and your suppliers in all ways only one objective to create more and more customer satisfaction to provide the customer best service. Your suppliers are your extended parts who are providing the services on your behalf to your customer. So you cannot go and break to your supplier at any point of time. You have to manage the relationship. You have to push to find out the best resolutions and the solutions to overcome from the problem of GST and get it all those resolutions and applying those resolutions in your GST returns filing. That is how it is important for your business. So find out those opportunities within yourself, manage and integrate with the suppliers, finding those opportunity, avail the input tax credit basis of how much available, reconcile input in your GSTR 2B, paying the tax to the government, following for the rest part that you have not availed and still pending in your books of account, follow with the supplier, push to the supplier to get it factored in the GSTR1, pay the tax to the government so that we as a buyer or recipient can be able to take the input tax benefit of all those invoices that you have reported, and that is shown in our GSTR 2B. So make a wise decision, proper reconciliations, and get to complete the GSTR compliances for all. This is how the system that you have to develop in your GST. Because at the end of the day, if you are not fulfilling the GST compliance, no matter what size of business you have, no matter which business you are dealing for, your business is not going to be run for the longer period of the time. And if you are taking the excess input tax credit while you are discharging the input tax, outward tax liability, it is going to create a biggest problem, and your business will have a more notices and assessment. So it is up to you only that how you are going to reconcile and pay the tax to the government. Decide and pay. This is Singh signing out. Until we meet again, thank you. Thank you very much.